My son joined a cult on the deep web. I did my best to be a good father for this kid. I did everything I could. Ever since his mom died, it was hard raising a kid alone, okay? And it's just weird being a father, and it was just weird. It was a mess from the very beginning, ever since my wife died. I didn't know what other way to raise a child. I took a more authoritarian approach, and obviously we didn't get along very well. I tried forcing him to join Boy Scouts and soccer and football, and he just wanted no part of any of it. He just wanted to be left alone and play in his room with his video games or TV or eventually his computer. We were still pretty close up until the time he got into high school. That's when things in our relationship, they got really bad. You see, I really wanted him to be in the JROTC program when he got into high school, and he wanted no part of it. Apparently he was anti-military. He didn't want to fight. He thought that he was going to be recruited to the military for some. I mean, what an idiot. I tried explaining to him that's not how it works, but he didn't believe a word I said. He'd rather listen to those conspiracy nut jobs on the internet that say Uncle Sam's gonna snatch him up in the middle of the night and take him away to fight in Iraq. Anyway, things got really heated between the two of us when he didn't take the class. I told him that was the one thing I needed him to do for me, and he couldn't do it. Of course, by this time, he'd quit just about every single club and sport I'd forced him into. He was old enough now that he can do that. There wasn't a whole lot I could really do about it. Our relationship, it was basically non-existent at a certain point. He just spent all of his time in his room, alone on that computer. He wouldn't talk to me at all. I didn't know what to do about it. I asked a couple of my friends how I should approach this. I knew a lot of guys that had kids and they went through phases like this, but everyone said, oh, try this, try that. Everything I did to communicate with my son, it didn't work. I got really worried about him. Things started to get really bad between us when he would disappear in the middle of the night, come back at like 5 a.m., get an hour of sleep, and then go to school at 6. I didn't know where he was going. I didn't know who he was with. I mean, what do you even do with that? What the hell? He wouldn't even talk to me. I finally had enough when he decided to steal my car one night and go to God knows where with who the hell knows who. I decided that was the last straw, and I was not going to play Mr. Nice Dad anymore. I decided to take away his computer, all of his technology, and he was going to do what I said. I pay the bills in this house, and he needed to obey me. Of course, that didn't work. It never does. And at this time, he started to disappear for days at a time with no warning. He would just be gone. Sometimes for weeks. I didn't even know what to do. The first time I thought he had ran away. He still attended school, so he couldn't have gone that far, but I didn't know what to think. I was worried about my son. I tried getting him in therapy, but God, those idiot quacks, they don't know shit from Shiola. Things went on like this for a couple of weeks, and finally, one day, I just decided to scream at him. I was so frustrated. All I wanted for him was a good future, to make something of himself, to think, to be a good person. Is that too much to ask for? With everything I've done for him, all the sacrifices that I've made. I lost my wife and I still continued on to raise this bastard, and now he does this to me. My words fell on deaf ears, because the next day, he disappeared, and I never heard from him again. And you want to know the worst part? The worst part is the very last thing he said to me was, "Thanks for nothing, old man." The nerve that after everything I've done for him, thanks for nothing? As you can imagine, losing my only son, the only family in this world that I had, didn't do me very much good. It was very painful. I still had his computer, so I tried tracking the websites that he visited, but his stuff was still encrypted. I couldn't even sign on to the damn thing. Damn tech nerd. After realizing that was pretty much useless, I decided to hire a private investigator. That ended up being a total waste of money. The guy, he thought it was just a good idea to just go around in town looking for him, questioning his friends and shit. No one even knew. His teachers had no idea where my son was gonna be. This left me in a bad place. I started fighting with everyone I knew. Became more reclusive. I took time off from my job. I started drinking. I didn't know what to do. I needed to find my son. I needed to fix him. If I could just see him one more time, I'd swore I would make things right, and everything was gonna be okay. Well, time went on, and my wishes were not answered. It had to have at least been a month. I was drinking every single day from the time I woke up till the time I passed out on the floor. I was apathetic. I didn't think I was ever going to see my son again. So I had no family. I was going to get fired from my job. I had nothing. Luckily, I had one friend. I had one friend who did right by me. He was a tech guy, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me to ask him to do this before, but he came over and finally got me into my son's computer. That was the best thing that ever happened to me, because if he had not done that, I was going to end up dead. When I got on there, I was able to see everything that he had been looking at. I gotta say, it was some disturbing stuff, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. I wasn't so much concerned with the weird shit he was looking at. I was more concerned with the correspondence he had with a cult. These people were literally Satanists. I found their site on the deep web. They did some disturbing stuff. They sacrificed animals. I even saw one where they sacrificed a child. I mean, I couldn't verify if it was true or real or whatever, but I mean, why the hell would you put a video like that? I only looked at the thumbnail. It looks pretty damn real to me. I guess all those nights that my son had disappeared, he was going out and hanging out with these Satanists, these devil-worshipping demons. That thought put me into a rage. It was at that point that I decided to stop drinking, stop this feel sorry for myself bullshit. I was gonna find my bastard son. I was gonna fix his ass, but good. He was going to regret the day he ran out on his father. I kept up with this satanic cult. I couldn't see my son anywhere in their new material they released, but I was determined to still find him, and I looked everywhere else. Everywhere. I checked every website I could. I looked all over, every torture show, just because there was a small chance that I could find my son again. It was one stormy night. I was alone in my office, sitting at my computer, as I always did, searching for my son on the deep web. I found him in the last place I expected him to be. So you remember that cult I mentioned earlier? It turned out that they actually had a subdivision in their organization that dealt especially with torturing children on live streams. And what do you know, my son is the #1 child torturer on the deep web. I mean, what do you even do with that? What the hell? I mean, it was one thing when he voted for Bernie Sanders, but this was a whole new level of disturbed. I started watching his streams quite a lot. I watched almost every single one, and as disturbing as it was, I know it was not good for my mental health, but I had to see my son. I did everything I could to find out where he was broadcasting from. You see, most people associate the deep web, torture kind of stuff in basements, right? Everyone thinks there's some kind of creepy, weird basement in the middle of nowhere where this stuff goes on. Well, my son did things a little bit different. He did it out in a wide open field at night. He had a few lights surrounding the area, but I don't even know how he set everything up. He probably had some kind of generator or God knows what. I did a whole bunch of research on how I could figure out where he was broadcasting from. Apparently, when you do it on the deep web, it's basically untraceable. There was nothing I could do as far as that was concerned. But one thing I could do was figure out where his location actually was based on the planes in the sky. You see, the way the live stream was set up, the camera angle was a bit low and it was pointed upwards. I don't know why they did it like this, and it was just disturbing. I'm sure there's some kind of sick reason for that, but what it allowed me to do was see planes in the background. I ended up triangulating the location based on flight patterns, and I came up with a location. Once I knew, roughly where he was going to be, I had a very hard time deliberating on what the hell I was going to do. Do I call the cops? Am I going to rat out my own son? Do I go there and try to reconcile things with him? And hey, I saw your torture live streams on the deep web. I thought I'd come by and say hi, see how you were doing. What the hell do you even do in a situation like this? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't allow my son to continue doing this. I was going to have to turn him in. I wanted to do it on my own accord, though. I wanted to, maybe show up there and beat him up and take him down to the police station. I knew he was going to rot in prison for the rest of his life, but at least there would be no more children being tortured on the deep web for these sickos to watch, and God knows what they did while they watched this. I made sure I was nice and armed. I ended up illegally purchasing an AK-47, and I ended up also getting a Desert Eagle. I figured that was going to be enough firepower to do whatever I was going to have to do. Surprisingly enough, he wasn't broadcasting all that far. It actually turned out to be only 20 miles away from our house. Of course, it was in a very rural area. I didn't exactly know what kind of living situation he had with these other cult members, but seeing as his stream was the most popular, he couldn't have been too poor off. That site actually got quite a few donations. Every single night he streamed at 9 p.m. and that was when I started to head over there. The streams normally lasted a couple hours. Some of them went to 1 a.m., some of them ended at 10. It depended on how long the kid lived. Sometimes they just couldn't take it and they died too fast, and it's sick. I know, it's disturbing, but I was nervous the entire drive over there. I couldn't imagine what it was gonna feel like to do this. Even if I could. What if a whole bunch of other guys come up and, shoot me or something? I pulled up roughly where the place was. I knew I was in the right place because there was a very wide open field, and in the middle, I could see some dark figures standing near a couple of lights. I saw some weird equipment. I knew it was them. I knew it was my son torturing some child. I saw if I had crossed over in the forest on the other side, I was going to be able to, get closer to them without being exposed. So I made sure to walk around over there so I'd have the best opportunity to catch my son. If I had just walked out in the open fields, he would have seen me. It took me about a half hour to, cross the entire thing. It was a big field and a big forest, and by the time I did, they were gone. Or, well, I shouldn't say they were gone, but the lights were off, and I was just confused at this point. I stood right there behind a tree, waiting. I knew exactly where he was. He was right at this one spot. I still saw the equipment in the moonlight. I squinted my eyes even more to try and look and see if anyone was there. "Thanks for nothing, old man,"